next level read here from J-Team that they're not going to sacrifice too much.
And how much are we going to be talking about the Tristana, gentlemen? Because when we saw Humanoid pick up that champion, it was a little bit less than what we were expecting from him. So that flexibility of the Syndra might be heading towards the mid lane unless we get something else here from Splyce. It's the Gangplank locked away. I love this.
Yeah.
The pick away from Vizicsacsi. We know this guy having his slim champion pool. He's been able to pick up most of the ones that he's wanted. As there's that Tristana that we were talking about.
You were talking about it. You're nailing it. Backstage as well. Atlus was nailing most of the pick bans we were watching.
And
what
some
else
of
you
them
got?
were a bit crazy as well. So the Tristana does come in. Well, you may have jinxed me now, Jatt, so it might be ruined. But there is the Leona that I definitely didn't predict, but it is going to be the answer to that Nautilus.
And a real chance to bot lane pick here, because we've seen Tristana solo lane a lot. This reminds me of one of the Season 2 favorites, Tristana Alistair, with the all-in potential on a trade even as early as level 2. So given that here, very flexible draft coming from Splyce. Couple of games we've mentioned that there was the single game in play-ins from Humanoid on that Syndra, but we're looking here. Kaisa's still available.
Yeah, and it's interesting because J-Team banned away the Xayah, which would definitely be the more preferable marksman against what is likely a kill lane of the Syndra Leona. And also, with the shorter range of Kaisa, it is a very dangerous lane to play against Leona. And also, the change to Leona before Worlds, actually giving the flat damage reduction on the W, is specifically what makes her stronger against Kaisa. So Norskeren will be incredibly tanky on his engages in that bottom lane.
And it's not actually that easy for Koala to try to peel away a level 2 all-in, even with all the CC on a Nautilus. So definitely not hating what's going on here from the Splyce perspective. The Yasuo ban coming in.
Yep, the Olaf is going to be the first one here on the J-Team side. We'll see what the next one is going to be. Looks like jungle focus coming out from J-Team at the moment. Splyce considering a few different options with the flexibility given to the Tristana. We're not expecting it to go topside. Not one of the teams that is likely to flex it up there given Vizicsacsi's track record, but there have been some surprises so far at Worlds, and we are going to continue down that jungle route with J-Team taking away the J4.
Yeah, and I feel like J-Team should be going for more engage. I thought they got a little bit trapped in their game against GAM yesterday where they didn't have enough tools to try and make proactive things happen, so they spent most of the mid-game neutralizing but just never had the ability to pull the trigger.
Yeah, that's how you remember the game, right? No agency, and then one of these engages from
Gragas would be good.
GAM was likely to get there. The Gragas, you mentioned it already, the Yasuo pairing is gone, but the Gragas, still a power jungler.
I love picking it away from Xerxe as well. I mean, this is certainly what he's been defaulting to so far this Worlds. Sample size of 2 games, but 100% pick rate on the Gragas, and not going to happen here.
Karthus.
There we go. Okay. Somewhere an LS is yelling in excitement as the Karthus is finally picked up, and the Sion going to be augmenting it here as well. Vizicsacsi going back to an old favorite, potentially.
Sion keeping fights extended. Karthus also getting more time to do his damage. So I actually do like that combo in theory, and I was a little bit behind Splyce trying to piece together what was happening with these jungle bans and thinking, wow, most of the junglers are gone that Xerxe would normally be going to or that we've seen at the World Championship. So the Karthus does fit in here as a time to pull it out.
But it's a bit of a jungler's paradise moment for Hana, because consider that you have, say, for example, the expected Alistair bot lane, Leona bot lane, I should say. Not going to be much coverage provided by Karthus in this game, mostly focuses on the farming. Will also be a Syndra also, and we'll see if that actually ends up being Kobbe's pick. There is a dual magic damage dealer here, so the flat pen build, Karthus likes to go from the jungle, not going to be as proficient.
So Humanoid's going to be able to get a run back on that Tristana, try and make up for some of the faults that he had in his last performance. It was more that mid to late game where he wasn't able to utilize a lot of items that they picked up in the earlier stages, as we do get the switch back just before the 20 seconds. So certainly playing the mind games this entire time.
I think you can make the argument that either one of those are good as long as Humanoid and Kobbe are practiced on both picks. And after what we saw on Humanoid's Tristana yesterday, I think there'd be a sigh of relief from some Splyce fans getting him back on a mage, even if he doesn't have games on Syndra in the summer.
And I've seen Kobbe play the Tristana pick domestically. I actually really like it with the Leona again, because you can kind of hop, skip, and jump past the Nautilus on an all-in attempt here. So I'm a fan of this particular duo, but the Karthus is the curveball. That will be the most interesting to try.
Onto the Rift for Game 4, Splyce versus J-Team. The European squad that made it through the play-ins only barely. Now to try and test their luck against a J-Team that upset the first seed from China and made this group extraordinarily interesting already. Things starting off with a lot of grouping from J-Team.
J-Team not dissuaded by the Sion. We of course saw the power of level 1 Sion against Griffin yesterday. You desperately want to know which side of the jungle Karthus starting on. Blue buff, always something he would go to, but the talisman allows you to go for a full bot side clear and not have any mana issues. Look at this though, Splyce looking for a lane swap.
But look at this
spotted.
What? They suspected a potential lane swap, and J-Team have prepared for it. As we've got pings coming out, I'm not sure whether they were entirely spotted. I'm just checking the minimap for these ping markings.
Yeah, with Fog of War toggle, I'm actually not sure if that ward would see it because you could see Kobbe and Norskeren hugging the wall entirely.
And I mean, this is the classic Sion maneuver, right? You put your top lane Sion in the bottom lane and try and cheese a fully charged Q from the front brush. But this is without there being a bottom lane available. And there are a lot of pings out from Rest. This could just be a very early first blood. And Papa, you did mention that the level 2 power spike is there. We're looking for the level 1.
Oh, the level 1's possible. Rest walks up.
Yeah, in they go. There's the flash. The ignite is down. Rest. He's flashed, but can he get away? The answer is yes. 100 health, but he's still alive.
Oh, the lane swap is on right now, and they have the Sion in the bottom lane to try and wave clear as well as possible.
And I thought Loki Esports had gone home. Apparently, their spirit remains here at Worlds, as we do once again have that lane swap that caught Damwon so unaware.
It does seem to be a homebrew strategy to stop the Gangplank from getting a free lane. X-Flash out of the brush, but not going to find anything here. Remember, turret reinforcements were the big reason that lane swaps were usually a thing of the past, but some trades are being made here. And definitely when it comes to safe 1v2 laners, cut from the same cloth as Cho'Gath is the Sion.
So gentlemen, I got a question for you then. What is going to be the response here from J-Team? Because Damwon, they messed it up when it happened to them. Are J-Team making the right moves?
They're matching. So this is something you definitely can do into the lane swap because they're trying to get GP up against Sion as quickly as possible. The other option would have been to try and race the wave clear in the bottom side, but then you would think with a flashless GP this early in the game, he would be too vulnerable to the dive. So in this case, I think matching is the right option.
And if you wonder why this time for the lane swap, you might think, oh, is it because GP is such a menace? Remember, the lane swaps make jungle movements more predictable and might guarantee Karthus a full first clear without necessarily being second to a gank.
It's a great point. It already has. He's gone the Dark Seal actually early and boots, but it's fine for Karthus. He's just going to be farming up as quickly as possible. I think a pretty good start for Splyce, all things considered.
And how often does an unimpeded jungle Karthus not pay off dividends in the late game? So maybe some investment via an old strategy to get Xerxe this comfortable start.
Really like it so far from Splyce as Norskeren moving down towards the bottom side of the map. Kobbe already switched back. And I love this because what Splyce had was the initiative on the play, so they were able to make all of these moves earlier, and it was always J-Team reacting now. 3 versus 2 underneath this turret. The dive is on. The Wall of Pain is in Norskeren, though. He's dead under that turret. A bit of a whoopsie to start this one, and J-Team get first blood.
A big whoopsie in that case. Norskeren only level 2 on the Leona. So unless they think they have immense amounts of burst damage, that's not going to get them the kill.
He may have been listening to you, Jatt, when you talked about the damage reduction. I just don't think it's quite that much damage reduction.
You need the W for it, otherwise it doesn't work.
And what I want to focus on this replay, rather than the misfire, let's say, is the fact that they're slow pushing in a minion wave after Karthus has nowhere to go. Look at his jungle.
Yeah.
He's cleared every camp. This is the best use of his time to sap up some experience, and Norskeren kind of spoils what was the perfect use of Karthus' time at the moment.
I agree, and I also want to point out that J-Team's responses to this lane swap tells me they've prepped for it. It is kind of like watching a game from 2015 when we saw this. There was a lot of times in the back and forth where an AD carry, like in this case the Kaisa, kind of gets trapped in the top lane against a tank, and they just end up farming out, and then you end up seeing the support down with the top laner to prevent a dive. And Splyce just really felt like they had a tempo advantage or wanted to force it, but clearly they didn't, and now J-Team has the advantage.
Well, FoFo doesn't here in the mid lane, half health. Humanoid doing pretty well. on the Syndra thus far, but definitely a very strong laner. I think the Sion does give it away. I think he does very, very well in a 1v2 situation.
Fun lane swap adaptation in the build here from the GP. You notice an Ancient Coin, and we saw, of course, Nogari going down the Ancient Coin line in a different, more isolated matchup. If you're not picking up CS and someone comes to join you in the lane because you just can't get there as the melee range GP, you might actually get some coins if your support or jungler comes to duo lane with you.
Also, Nomad's Medallion, probably the cheapest way to pick up some CDR that Gangplank really likes.
Yeah, so the way this would work, actually, is you can't get gold coins to drop if you're alone in a lane. But if Koala goes there with the Targons and shares a cannon, since technically GP didn't last hit the cannon, cannons always drop a coin. So he'd get a chance of either the gold or the mana coin and get the gold from the cannon share. So it's actually kind of like doubling up, but it would require the support to be there. If he's just doing this right now, the only thing he gets out of it is the GP10 value.
And it's kind of that trade-off of if you buy the item, it kind of telegraphs where the support is likely to go, right? Because otherwise the efficiency is lower. He's just definitely diversifying his portfolio. A lot of investment going on here from the Gangplank.
See whether it works out as the gold entirely even, and the first Drake is that Infernal. Looking down the line on Splyce, Vizicsacsi not going to get a whole lot, but the rest of the carries are certainly very happy to see that red Drake in the pit. Any sort of Karthus composition, any way to make that R button more effective is exactly what you want.
I mean, he hit 6 pretty fast. So yes, Splyce went a little bit over aggro in the bottom lane, and J-Team knows what they're doing in matching these lane swaps. But a lot of things actually did work out for Splyce in the fact that Xerxe got 6 fast. Humanoid also had the isolated 1v1 against LeBlanc where he has a CS advantage. And this ult is likely just to get to the wave.
Although Rest is going to take a hell of a lot of damage from it. Yeah, Vizicsacsi going for the 1v1. Rest has to flash away from the Sion, and now it is going to... Oh, Dark Harvest, I believe he got a stack, so still worth from Xerxe.
My bad. GP has no items.
You wrote the eulogy for that gank a little bit too early.
A little early. I jumped the gun there.
And he's at 2 Dark Harvest stacks, so something minimal going the way of the car. This has been a weird and wonderful one. We're going to have to be on our game here because there's a lot of crazy stuff happening.
There's a Predator on the bottom side of the map there as Hana is booped away, but it's not enough. Lilv picks up the kill, and Norskeren goes down for the second time.
That was clean. As far as getting exactly the combo they wanted out of Norskeren, I think Norskeren technically had flash, but just was hoping, I think, to get an aftershock proc of some kind. Really, not much you could do there.
Yep, Norskeren has been pretty far up in his aggressive positioning, but what this means is J-Team pick up an Infernal Drake, going to help them moving into the late game. As Xerxe is on the other side of the map trying to steal a red buff that he's not going to get. Rest moves on down to try and cover for his jungler.
He has to give it up. His camp advantage, the only thing that Splyce have pulled off, and you know they would have put a lot of practice into this early game, because again, up to the point where Leona turret dived, the economy of movement of the Karthus was perfect. It's taken every camp, was in position to help a slow pushed wave into the turret, but since then, when they have a TP advantage on their AD carrier, initially started top lane, the last thing they would have expected is another successful gank, and crucially, with a TP advantage from AD carry, they lose the Drake as well.
And watching that again, they CC locked Norskeren so well he couldn't even get an auto attack off to proc his aftershock. We ended up seeing a lot of that actually happen, I think, to hands in one of the G2 games, but we're seeing more and more of this stuff at Worlds where the aftershock supports are getting killed before they have a chance to do anything like proccing aftershock, because I feel like these teams are just more coordinated than teams we're used to watching, right? It's the best teams from every region in the world.
Not to mention the crazy amount of CC that is in that lane with a Gragas attending. Pretty scary stuff and a lot of burst damage down there as well. So Norskeren, not a lot of options, and now sitting at 0-2. See whether he can pull back this performance. Splyce, though, I mean, the early game has worked out for them. The mid game has been a little bit of a trough for this squad. So that's what we're going to be looking for as this clock ticks up, to see whether Splyce can get things back in order. Because like you were mentioning, the Karthus is still on track. And whenever there's a Karthus jungle, he's the carry. That's just how it works.
The interesting thing, though, is, you know, at this point, you start looking forward, thinking, okay, what does this game actually look like in terms of scaling 35, 40 minutes? But we might have to hold the point. Predator popped, but not going to be a further commitment. The Karthus definitely does stick out as an extra scaling factor, but I look at something like LeBlanc, a lot more comfortable in a side lane in the future than Syndra. Otherwise, the evaluations, both teams have frontline, Karthus versus Gangplank. Those are the kind of scaling elements on both sides. So it's honestly pretty even, and that hasn't necessarily been the story of our drafts so far at Worlds 2019.
Yeah, and my traditional sense would say hey, Splyce have the better front line and still have sustained damage. So in a well set up 5v5 team fight, they'd have the advantage.
But stack the magic resist, kill Tristana, and suddenly that works out. So it's very kind of 6 and 2 threes going on.
Yeah, and you're looking at it. I think FoFo is certainly the man we're going to be looking at, because it's going to be his job to deal with what Kobbe is going to be throwing at them towards the later stages. But that is still in a time to come, as Xerxe throws out a wall of pain. Doesn't hurt too much, as Cannon Barrage is going to protect this turret.
Something I will say is J-Team seems quite prepared for Splyce's toolkit. The 4-man dive is something that Splyce did very successfully yesterday against FPX to nearly pull that upset and give them a big gold lead. And in this game, not only have we seen J-Team kind of handle the lane swap, they're also very prepared for that 4-man dive. And the question will be, can J-Team do more than just play defense? Because sure, they're stopping Splyce, but it's not giving them any advantage yet.
But still, there's suspicion to put down the lane war that we expect didn't spot, but yet the Gangplank played as defensively as possible. But it turns out you can't just give up minion waves. You have to approach at some point. He didn't die there, so I give full credit to J-Team for the first 11 minutes. And with these 2 kills with Infernal, they're marginally ahead.
Yeah, well, Hana's going to be able to get a boop there, as Flash is going to get Norskeren out of the way, but that is still Flash now on cooldown as FoFo connects the chain and avoids everything with a beautiful little rejoin with the first departure of the distortion. Back in again. They're just going to throw out a Q, and Humanoid feeling the pressure now from the star mid laner of J-Team.
On comfort as well. Stylen so far, it's not an easy matchup for the Syndra. If you ever miss the E on an all-in from LeBlanc, you die. And that is the problem here for the Syndra. You have to be so much holding on to that stun, and if the Gragas joins in, it might not even be enough.
Well, FoFo right underneath this turret right now as the stun does land. FoFo gets out of there. The Unleashed power is on, but not enough damage. Already, the Mercury's Treads picked up and paying dividends for FoFo.
Yeah, Mercury Treads is a classic for LeBlanc in this Syndra matchup, so that you have a little bit to fight back if you end up getting stunned. And yeah, Vizicsacsi on the Sion is a strong laning pick. Sion sometimes falls out of meta here because he can get farmed by a lot of Kleptomancy users, but in this case, with some armor items, he is a strong laner who potentially has kill threat if Rest plays too disrespectfully.
And I think the potentially actually needs to be upgraded to a slightly more aggressive adjutor, because notice it is Glacial Augment Sion as well that has that perma-slow ability on auto, and also remember the zombie version applies the slow if he goes down.
See what Vizicsacsi's going to pick up when he goes back to base, as Splyce do start off the Rift Herald. Shelly going to be their target. Still a minute left on the plates.
Notice Lilv doesn't have teleport, so cannot match here. He's going to be bot side. Shouldn't be even an attempt to come handshake and fight for this. No way for J-Team to match numbers.
Yep, Xerxe going to be able to pick up a bunch of extra gold from this one as well, as I believe that was a train that we see heading towards the bottom side of the map. Connects another one there. Onto Lilv, as we've got a fight. Yeah, Hana's going to go golden, but he's on a sliver of health as FoFo trying to be the hero. Doesn't land the chains, and Hana eventually falls down, but Shelly will reset and head back to the pit.
Even though they got the temporary reset, I feel like they should have listened to Papasmithy here when you're saying, wait a minute, you got your 1-kill Kaisa down in the bottom lane. Yes, Sion is down there, but one team has a setup, one team has even the potential to teleport in, and they end up not stopping the Rift Herald and still losing the jungle.
Exactly. It was such a low percentage chance to lead to a successful outcome for the side of J-Team. But when you're in a game where you feel pressured to win, you walk up, you try to fight, really nice Scout of the Week comes in, and suddenly it was a raffle to see who would go down. Koala, in the end, was fine.
Yeah, Koala's going to be able to make it out, but the jungler not so lucky, which means Shelly places her head into this turret on the top side of the map, but doesn't get any plates.
And that's actually because they all end in that Rift Herald fight, and being able to get the reset stops the plates. Still, after all that, though.
next level, is that what you're saying?
No.
Well, if the next, the next level after that is to be down 2,000 gold.
Yeah. I mean, there are ramifications. That's not necessarily what you're going for, is Hana looking at this Ocean Drake.
Maybe we need to find a new definition for next level.
Yeah,
it doesn't need...
What is the next level? Is almost... Yeah, that was actually his own team.
That was an ally.
I got baited at the same time, Jatt. It's okay. We're in this one together.
Lane swap started off the fun here in this fourth game of the day, but where it's leading is still unclear. It's a gold lead versus 2 Drake lead for the side of J-Team, so definitely not writing this one off, and we've already kind of gone on ad nauseum about the fact that the scaling's pretty even. Running up a graphic here, you can see that when it comes to any kind of snowball stats or necessarily early game, we're definitely bottom third here for the side of J-Team.
And I think this is also not that surprising for J-Team. They weren't a particularly proactive team in the LMS. They generally were able to kind of outlane the opponent, get large advantages, and then win. And this is kind of the third game in a row, where that hasn't been possible. They won the FPX game off of out-team fighting when FPX was really over-aggressive. They lost the GAM game due to team fights, and now, again, they don't have the much of a lead, so I think I know what this one's going to come down to.
Yeah, and even J-Team in their final against AHQ was still playing very slow in the early stages. The reason it was a close final was because J-Team just decided not to do very much in early games a lot of the time.
And if I'm doing the prep document for a team playing J-Team, I kind of copy-paste the G2 draft from their first game and say, let's get some scaling on, because we're not worried about J-Team punishing it. The Karthus is cut from that cloth, but they've gone from some other strategies as well here. Tristana Karthus are definitely top 10 scaling champions among the League of Legends champs, so all in all, Splyce feel comfortable. This turret is where Norskeren has had trouble.
Charge as FoFo's going to get stunned up. Splyce, this could be the team fight they're looking for. As there's the solo player, and Kobbe picks up the kill, but it's immediately answered. No more supports on the map for either team, and we do have a gentleman's agreement. Both teams back away.
We've used all our spells. We're done here.
Yep.
The important thing is Splyce ends up winning that one because not only do they have the pressure mid, they also got kill distribution onto a carry, whereas the kill actually went onto Koala for J-Team.
That's a nice double stun out there from Humanoid as they run out of minions here in this mid lane as Lilv fighting up against Kobbe right now, but I know who my money's on when it comes to taking down turrets pretty quickly, and it should be that Kobbe will have that 1v1 in the bag. As we have a look at this fight one more time.
Norskeren has had a lot of strife under this outer bot lane turret. Koala hits the ult here, and Norskeren thinks he can blast man over, but no, it was overridden by the knockup from the depth charge. That means Norskeren's life is void, but Kobbe easily trades it over the wall.
And Vizicsacsi ulting in there, but it's just a train ride to a bit of a dead end. As now on the bottom side of the map, Norskeren has made his way back in. 0 and 3 right now, but he's facilitated the 2 kills that Splyce have managed to pick up.
In case you guys are wondering, Nomad's Medallion has so far bequeathed 150 gold, 146 or so when we last checked in, so definitely not too many coins dropping here.
It's almost paid for itself.
No, it hasn't. Not even close.
I feel like he actually has 0 coins based off of that calculation. That feels like that's all GP10 gold.
So what you're saying is they're playing a long game.
Yeah.
I'm not bought in on this Nomad's Medallion, let me tell you.
They got to answer the scaling on Splyce's side. Completely understand here from Rest. FoFo, another cheeky Q to come in. As we're talking about the scaling, and you guys have mentioned that Splyce certainly do have it. I'm thinking about sort of ultra late game as far as those large money, but I'll hold the thought as in goes Norskeren, booped back by the barrel, and is going to be taken down. J-Team, they get another pick onto this support.
Definitely a little bit of a lazy vision mission there from Norskeren. Frontline Leona always needs help because she has no exit plan, even when Flash goes down. Koala walks up, but the jungler behind him. Definitely an area where Splyce have made mistakes before, and Karthus not so helpful in that area of mid lane.
Down in the mid lane, misses the chain as there's the cannon barrage. And that's going to help FoFo pick up that kill comfortably. And J-Team, they found it. It ticks over 18 minutes and they're alive on the map.
And that could be the swing that J-Team is looking for. Not only do they get river control into bot turret, they now get FoFo off the ground against Humanoid, which might push him into more defensive itemization. Just watching this one more time, we knew once these two got Ludens, the lane would get more explosive, and as soon as the stun is missed, FoFo says, I gotcha.
And we've been waiting for FoFo to hit the international realm. Only Rift Rivals a couple of years ago in his resume. This guy is not just good in his region, he's straight up a great mid laner. Picks up the solo kill effectively there with a bit of help from GP, and we already mentioned, with an item lead especially, put him in the side lane and Humanoid kind of flags down a teammate to deal with it.
And we really need to track Norskeren. I think a lot of people will look at that and say, hey, Norskeren needs to play more safely. But I also think J-Team attacks the enemy support very well. They killed Slay many times last game as well in fights over vision.
Well, lots of teleports here into the mid lane as there's no depth charge available. Vizicsacsi chains connect from FoFo, but he is going to be able to walk it out. And FoFo just trying to poke around the train and smashed straight into a wall. And Splyce say, you saw nothing. It's fine. It's fine. Just get out.
Trying to get positioning on this Mountain Drake to justify the multiple teleports used. J-Team, they pop the Predator, they walk up.
Yep, Norskeren already down to about half health as Predator not going to get utilized just yet. FoFo still poking his head in, and Splyce, they've been softened towards this Drake take, and This Ocean Drake might actually be working out as J-Team. Not a lot of health bar missing at this stage after a bit of fighting.
Yeah, plus I think that FoFo LeBlanc has done a very good job of just getting Poke out into the wild. Add that to the fact that Norskeren is behind the item curve, and then once Splyce lose the Sion ultimate, they can't really fight back.
Well, it's just a kill straight up onto Humanoid. Vizicsacsi takes the barrel right underneath his turret, but the safety is only limited as they have a mid laner in the death chamber.
I'm just almost lost for words. That chain link barrel blew him up, and suddenly another kill onto Humanoid is flashed. Still a couple of minutes off cooldown here. Things are starting to line up for J-Team.
It's once again one of those mid games that you kind of want to forget. As Splyce, they do need to put in the effort to tidy this one up. It is still not quite 3,000 gold the lead for J-Team. Some opportunities for Splyce to get towards that late game that they're looking for.
And again, it should be mentioned that with a Karthus jungle, yes, he can throw down the wall of pain to try to help, but those 2v2 plays that Splyce have been criticized through their jungle and support to get map control are trickier with this setup, and they've already made a couple of mistakes in doing it because J-Team have been able to control this quadrant towards the 3 Drakes they've stacked for the better part of 20 minutes.
And I also want to kind of touch more on the Karthus jungle as it executes in the mid game. So if Karthus doesn't get really far ahead of the curve and can start invading and counter jungling the opponent, if he's actually afraid of the other jungler in 1v1s, he is a very bad jungler at controlling vision, whereas Gragas is going to be a lot better. So it is really just Norskeren who can meaningfully apply vision for the team. Another reason that I think J-Team has been able to get these picks, because Splyce can't see them a lot of the time.
And that's not the only area where Karthus will struggle. He can't really walk up to help anything in the mid lane, so doesn't really provide much there. Puts down the wall, can maybe back off an ult to get some health bar damage, but other than that, he's pretty void. Meanwhile, every other jungler in the meta is a frontliner. Even Gragas putting full AP fits into that archetype. So for now, at least, Splyce, they've definitely been halted. The game feels like more and more is being played on J-Team's pace.
And Lilv very close to finishing off third item here as well. It looks like it will be his Zeal item of choice. As Hana making his way down into this river. Still 3 minutes away from that Drake, but I have a feeling J-Team are very happy to fight as soon as possible. They've already got all of that magic penetration coming in from the Oblivion Orb onto FoFo. He's got his first item, which feels so pivotal on this LeBlanc. And the Trinity Force is done. We're looking for more of Malmortius, and then Rest is going to be very happy, and a lot of damage available here from Hana as well. So J-Team might be able to answer here as Splyce group up as 4, but it's Splyce to start the fight. Solar Flare avoided there from Lilv, who has a lot of DPS. Norskeren is going to feel it and will go down as now the rest of J-Team going in, but it is the turret falling. But Humanoid's going to do the same thing, and Vizicsacsi finds himself all on his lonesome. Killer Instinct utilizes FoFo diving forward, but he's going to come back. Will find himself a dead Sion to help deal with, and J-Team move towards the Baron pit.
All 5 alive. Xerxe doesn't even have flash to try and get in the pit. It looks like this one's going over to J-Team.
Should be unanswered here. Xerxe will at least nominally walk up, but Baron should be done.
Yep, Baron is just dead before anything could happen. J-Team with that Mountain Drake, with the Infernal Drake augmenting the damage there, and Baron taken 24 minutes into this game. J-Team strike when Splyce are weakened.
So the start of this play is good. They want to get some free damage in the turret, but I want to look at Norskeren's positioning. He goes hard in with no one to follow him up, and the rest of the team wanting to hit the turret. So actually, his whole health bar is in vain. And from there, J-Team just hold the story, and the 2 tanks end up just being turned on by 4 people. First Norskeren, then Vizicsacsi.
And FoFo just beautifully avoiding the Sion, then turning the damage around with the distortion. Just stunning play on this LeBlanc, a pick that he was famous for, and I'm so glad we get to see it at its full power here on the world stage.
Agree. FoFo is playing extraordinarily well, and much like J-Team's first victory, a lot of their gold is also on Lilv. So he's a very fed Kaisa, able to give a bunch of damage at the back end of these team fights, and for the most part, with the vision game we've talked about, Splyce doesn't have very many options other than trying to fight, but they weren't at the right power spikes, and they didn't have the team fight coordination, so that's another reason that was a wipe for J-Team.
And one thing we didn't consider when we were talking about later game team fights and front lines is that the one thing Kaisa was famous for is that she doesn't have to hit the front line. She can actually just reposition into the back line with another threat. That's definitely FoFo in this game on the LeBlanc, so with that flexible positioning, if we have another fight where Vizicsacsi and Norskeren's frontline ability is void, it might just be lights out for Splyce.
Well, top outer turret is going to fall, FoFo. No one going to be answering him. We have to go back to your point earlier on, Papasmithy, talking about who is going to answer the LeBlanc in a side lane. Well, who's going to answer her when she's this fed? The answer is no, guys. It's a simple one. And now FoFo is going to get to work on the inner turret as well, with Hana just waiting for an unsuspecting foe to walk forward.
Hey, sometimes the minions die and she has to back away from the turret.
Hey, that's true. Can't 1v1 a turret with the backdoor bonus available.
Well, knocks this one down, and there are very few proactive options available for Splyce. They really are reeling during this Baron. It's already at 3,500 Baron power play. Not often the Baron goes down before the mid lane outer turret, but the mid lane outer turret will be following up very shortly.
Mid-game difference, for sure, in this one. Because
I'm glad we had to pause just to let that one brew.
Yeah.
You know, we needed it.
Definitely seems like the story of this group stage, because aside from the game we just saw, every game in this group stage that came into the day 1-1 has been decided in the mid-game, and J-Team just, with the triple Drake now, with this Baron buff, already a 4,000 gold Baron power play, without even conflict, is getting so many objectives.
And I'm a bit flustered because I really like what Splyce was doing with the lane swap into Karthus following a group minion wave, but ever since Norskeren's faceplant under turret, one thing unraveled, another unraveled, and suddenly J-Team really control all areas of this game.
And actually, while that was happening, Papa, we were talking about initiative. We were talking about the fact that it was Splyce that started this lane swap. They got the early flash out of rest, and then they were the ones that were able to dictate the flow on the map. And Norskeren's move there on the bottom side of the map lost that one. And Splyce have been trying to wrestle it back to no avail throughout the rest of this game. J-Team with a stranglehold on at the moment, 5,000 gold in the lead, cresting 50,000 as they hit it. While I say that, 4 turrets to 3, J-Team very strong at this stage, and another BF sword to augment Lilv's build.
How much gold does he have out of the Nomads now?
Oh, you're still interested on the
There we go.
Nomads?
Yeah.
Let's do a check-in. 366.
That pays for almost half of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
See?
And it's got 10% CDR. It's basically a CDR cube. That has inherent value.
I like you're about as glass half full as I am.
In
Jatt.
another life, you'd be a traveling salesman, Jatt. That's what I know.
Hey, do you want to travel to Korea?
I just miss Heart of Gold. I love GP10 items.
How many, though, Jatt? What was the sweet spot? 2, 3?
I was 2 hearts of gold and a Philo Stone. That's what I think the sweet spot
Okay,
was.
yeah.
We're
And a
age yourself.
Trinity
We're
Force as
being League of
Bobby.
Legends boomers now.
Yeah.
We really are.
There were once items that just paid for themselves. I wonder why they're gone.
You're not a Cage's Lucky Pick fan? No, we don't have any Cage's Lucky Pick fans here?
Yeah, well, at first you could stack them, then they made them unique, so you just built all 4.
Yep.
All right, sorry, they're just
That
gonna
Dredge
win
line
out.
does come in. It saves us from this conversation. Is the nice double knock up there from Vizicsacsi. Solar Flare forward, and now the train has stopped very early. Barrel comes down, more like a disengage. A decent stun, but it's not enough as Splyce are playing so scared.
FoFo comes back, and a poke, but probably no kill pressure here. J-Team don't have the ability to contest vision, and thus don't want to dive too far into enemy lines. So the first stalling of the game by Splyce.
Yeah, and that was a front-to-back team fight.
Sure.
The damage couldn't actually cut through the super tank Sion, so if somehow Splyce can manufacture those, I think it'll be difficult to manufacture those because GP, LeBlanc, Kaisa dive, but in that corridor, it worked.
Exactly. The terrain advantage there, I think, was the big thing, because you're never blessing your killer instinct there as the Kaisa, because you don't know what's going on. Couldn't scout, so hard to force too many rumbles in the jungle that deep away from objectives, but that one works out. And hey, if Splyce can somehow come up with a way to do that 2 or 3 more times, and we start reading 45, 49 minutes, then maybe some of these items will be paying off on the side of Splyce.
It's really interesting thinking about this game with still the onus on J-Team to finish it as quickly as possible, just in case we get to a point where there's 6 items on multiple carries on Splyce's side, and they can just walk at J-Team and do more damage.
Yeah, at what point does Splyce just try and say, all right, we're not going to try to fight, we're just going to take them if J-Team forces it on us? Because J-Team hasn't really been that good at doing that. I think with the Baron coming up, that's going to be a natural catalyst for a fight, but that's the type of thing that I think Splyce should do. If Norskeren tries to force another engage, I think that's actually where Splyce lose.
Well, Norskeren not going to press his E button. Holds onto that Zenith Blade for now as FoFo connects another chain. He's otherwise going to be able to make it back over that wall with the return on the distortion. An Infinity Edge was just completed by Lilv, guys. He's got a stopwatch there. That's full build. And that's very, very scary if you're a Splyce fan.
Definitely concerned on that one, Atlus. And right now I'm just thinking, how does J-Team snowball the game further? Because chunking out people with FoFo, that's been their strategy so far, and some solo plays from him. They don't necessarily have the Sion to zoom in, but Gragas and Nautilus with a vision advantage can do so. But you'd normally want to see these guys play the side lanes. We're grouped for now, so actually it's very much stalemate.
Yeah, J-Team would need deeper vision control or a good amount of poke on someone not Vizicsacsi, because it seems like he's just going to heal up.
FoFo's just practicing chain connection onto Vizicsacsi right now. Yeah, the cannon barrage will come down, and already they've lost so much health. J-Team are already on the Baron. Lilv taking it down to about half health already. The Rage Blade is stacked, and the Baron is in danger. Koala now over the wall as FoFo misses that chain. He had so much practice from before as there's the teleport, but oh no, it's a disaster. Vizzy gets himself out of the way. And that looks like not the ultimate that we were looking for, but the shutdown does come in. Rest throws his life away, but that is only one Baron missing from this J-Team.
So a lot of information to digest at the same time. Yes, it looked like useless damage into Vizicsacsi, but what Splyce knew was they had wards, saw the Baron had been started, tried to walk up, and the health bars actually were consequential. Xerxe was below half health as well. So the Baron is bloodless outside of GP overstepping in the mid lane, and the objective that we were just wondering how they would engineer actually falls into the lap of JT.
Brilliant stuff. Lilv augments his build with another BF sword. My goodness, he's got a lot of damage at this stage. Infinity Edge completed from Rest as well. The items are coming through thick and fast. FoFo just looking for a new piece of headwear. Only one more stick away from completing that. Don't quiz me on why that works. There's now Splyce moving out of their base. Raptor camp being taken here from the Karthus. They're desperately trying to hold on. If they can deal with these minion waves and just hold on to their inhibitor turrets, in theory, they can make it towards a late game fight that they can win, but it's getting more and more difficult.
Yeah, I think J-Team should take the Ocean as quickly as possible so that Elder can come up soon. But even though J-Team does have a reasonable advantage in this game, Kobbe just completed the Bloodthirster. So he's a very high damage Tristana, and if J-Team doesn't execute the fight properly, he absolutely could clean up. So this game isn't over for Splyce, even if J-Team has Baron and a large advantage.
And this Lilv build is actually very aggressive as well.
Yeah.
Doesn't have a lot of the defensive options that you see out of a Kaisa. Also has the ability to build something like a Zhonya's Hourglass to avoid the ult coming out of Humanoid, but doesn't have any of those choices.
Yeah, usually the pivot after the Muramana into Rageblade is AP, which allows for those fun utility items like Banshee Veil and the Zhonyas. Instead went AD from that side of the build, so it does, as you say, preclude something that might save him from, say, a Karthus ultimate.
Yeah, and even something like a Mercurial Scimitar, not going to be completed, but not going to have quite as much of the value as the Zhonya's would. Like you were saying, there are so many reasons why that item's real good.
Finally,
okay.
Hex Drinker.
So that's an instance where I feel like someone else on the team said,
yes, I agree.
Lilv, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's when you press tab and you're like, oi, wrong build.
I like to think they asked for a stopwatch, and he's like, wait, Hex Drinker does more damage.
Well, we'll see whether it keeps him alive. We'll have to keep our eyes on that one for science. 7,000 gold the lead for J-Team, looking to try and crash down some more of these turrets, but they do have to move quite a ways down this map in order to get to any open ones. The 5 Drake's going to be helping. The 3 of them being Ocean means that they can go in, then pop out again, and have full health for the next time.
For the viewers at home, we have 2 clear timers of ingress. 35 seconds for a Baron, 3 minutes and a half for an Elder. Those cannot be seeded. The game will end if they pick up both buffs. So for now, at least, Splyce have to find a way to split the map and try to get vision somewhere, because if you try to get both sides of the map, you often end up with vision nowhere.
And I think we have a little bit more time, because that 30-second timer is the current duration of their Baron power play. So the next respawn of the Baron is going to be much closer to the spawn of the Elder Drake.
So you're saying we have 3 minutes to talk about you coming to the LCK?
Yeah. It needs to be the switch.
3 minutes to talk about why you left the LCK.
Well, no. We're keeping that secret.
That's not going to help our argument
Do you want to gossip on Atlus? Right now, I swear we can't hear you.
Do you want me to turn on?
Yeah, take the headset off.
I'll take the headset off for you. Might need it, just because Vizicsacsi is trying to play frontline here towards the bottom side of the map. Does get a slow onto Lilv as FoFo over the wall, but he's just poking with his face. Lands another chain there. Pops the Sigil onto Norskeren, down to half health now. Trying to sweep out some vision. 5 members of Splyce all grouped up. This was where that fight that almost worked
They did it, Jatt. They're back there.
Splyce have done their homework. They realize that this is possibly an opportunity, but it's not going to work. They're going to get pushed back into their base, and FoFo puts his face into the Sion. Down to half health. Does need to be respected. Void Staff and the Rabbiton's Death Cap now completed.
Can confirm that Rest has more than 500 gold now because he's got wards, Jatt. He can be an extra warder.
He actually upgraded it.
He did.
Solar Flare is going to land, but Koala doesn't take enough damage there, and J-Team still able to turn this one. Decent stun onto Lilv that you have to remember only has the cleanse to get himself out of any of that CC.
You have the goofiest smile at the moment, Jatt, looking over at this item being completed.
It's just, save your gold for your GA. He's sitting on the stopwatch. No, I must get the
wards, Jatt. He's a team player,
extra
macro
one
play.
ward from my Eye of the Ascension.
He's another person that misses Tracker's knife, so he's going to create another avenue for wards onto this map as Humanoid in trouble. Cannon Barrage once again, but the flash this time from Humanoid. It is not going to work twice in a row.
One more tick and he'd be done. He's out of the fight for a while. FoFo keeps poking.
Yeah, out of the fight. FoFo back in there immediately. Finds another member of Splyce that he can try and get that poke onto. Kobbe thanking his Bloodthirster for the ability to alleviate that poke. Splyce are going to push out a little bit further, but the thing that we have to talk about is that J-Team have been unable to break open the base, and even that bottom inhibitor turret not down to below half just yet.
I feel like that was a little bit of a lazy effort because they knew they had more stuff coming that would help them in the Baron and the Elder Drake. So now, after they've gotten the flash out of Humanoid, they're setting up for Baron because they do Baron into Elder if they don't get a fight here.
So the easiest thing Splyce can do is try to delay till both buffs are on the Rift and try to get something. Yes, it sucks to get a no-stack Elder, but this fight on disadvantaged terrain is Norskeren.
Yeah, flash in onto FoFo. It's Norskeren trying to solo him though, and he's out of position. The chains connect, no stun available onto FoFo as Lilv dives into the back line. Doesn't find Norskeren, as that's a decent knockup from Vizicsacsi, but Hana is going to go golden.
Kobbe!
Over the wall, will he find the AoE? The Buster Shot to trade onto FoFo, and he has to press his stopwatch. The chain is going to land, and FoFo says, nope, it was cute, but it ain't going to work today.
Kobbe went all in on the side. Here's the Karthus assault. Will not take anyone down. He was alone in a warded brush, and that means Baron and maybe Elder as well to J-Team.
Yeah, 50% of the health bar, but there is no way Splyce can stop this one. The second Baron will go down in favor of J-Team, and now FoFo looking for Humanoid. Does break the Banshee's Veil, but not going to go too far.
Kobbe still down for another 30 seconds. J-Team would want to get their health bars at least a little bit good. The triple ocean is going to be extremely beneficial in that case, and they can go straight onto this Elder.
Well, they haven't wasted any time, Jatt. This Elder is being taken down by a couple of members of J-Team with Hana just playing bouncer, but there is no one on this map anywhere near the Elder Drake, and it is going to be taken. That is 5 Drakes now augmented by the Elder. It's a very scary J-Team, and 11,000 gold into the lead. This should be the last few minutes for Splyce unless they can do something truly heroic.
Yeah, and I'm waiting to watch FoFo's first little bit of poke onto someone, because if he just W's, presses Q and then R, that might be fatal. Not entirely sure, but add anything else onto that and they should be able to poke. The 5 Elemental Elder, only less powerful than the 6 Elemental Elder, which, as we've been over, pretty much never happens.
He doesn't have a Medjai's, but it feels like he has a Death Note, because I'm with you. I think he's popping everyone. He's agnostic to health bars on this LeBlanc. They're walking up here. J-Team know they're basically God mode. They pressed IDD QD, and they know they're feeling strong.
Yeah, normally that only gives you golden eyes, but they're all golden right now. Yeah, there is 5 members of terrifying J-Team bearing down onto Splyce. On the bottom side of the map, FoFo is split pushing. Humanoid is just abandoning ship up towards the top side of the map. Only 4 members to defend this inhibitor turret in the mid lane, and FoFo says, well, if you're not going to be bottom side, I'm going to destroy it, and he does so very comfortably. Kobbe moves down, notices that the inhibitor has vacated the area, and FoFo still throws the poke in. He ain't scared of anyone.
No need to be. They're going to rotate up. They got a free inhibitor. Splyce would take 1 inhib loss only for this double buff. So J-Team recalling here is actually means, given the power, I would have preferred for J-Team to just Rambo under turret with how much insane damage and follow-up there was on that side. This feels too safe, Jatt.
It feels like they might be going for the double Elder win condition. That actually is what that signals me. They're probably going for a 3 inhib right here because they have 40 seconds left. They think they can get this turret down.
Are you sure you're not an LCK commentator? The double Elder win condition? That's our bread and butter. We
It just
love
feels like that's what J-Team's going for.
Well, J-Team have the inhibitor turret down to half health. The push is towards the top side as well. Vizicsacsi will deal with that one, and now J-Team don't have to worry about the big burly Sion. There's one siege minion. Splyce cannot deal with it, and that is the one that's going to finish off this inhibitor turret.
Whoa! That's 65% of his HP from 1W.
That's an owie. Xerxe doesn't have a lot of defensive statistics, guys.
It wasn't even AP.
Ouch.
All right.
All right, they've gotten 2. They need to wait for the 3rd wave. They'll have maybe 10 seconds to try and get number 3. They probably won't get it. Sion all coming through the zone. They're just trying to wait out the last 10 seconds of this Baron.
Train is going to be used just to clear out a minion wave. Voidseeker is going to hit the Sion, but doesn't do too much. Dredgeline in there as well, but he has the Gargoyle Stone Plate. He's got so much health. I don't think Vizicsacsi is going to be dying just yet, but that is a big cooldown. Not going to be able to play that immovable tank in the front line without the Gargoyle Stone Plate for the next little while.
Well, they'll have 2 waves of supers coming up, even though the Baron is gone, so they can stay in this position for quite a while and try and chip down on this 3rd one.
And speaking of which, they got 3 oceans as well, so any poke is not going to be an issue. It is going to be for Norskeren, though. The Eclipse, he's saying thank you very much for that one. Cannon Barrage comes in, Norskeren! Oh no, he's got no flash! Goodbye! FoFo's in there, has the extra damage. They no longer have any inhibitor turrets as Humanoid goes golden as well, but once again, picked off with the dredge line. Big damage from Rest. He's gonna shoot him with his pistol. There's the Requiem, but it might be the dream for J-Team right now. As Kobbe over to the side, will find FoFo with the Buster Shot to try and disengage, but now he's dealing with super creeps. There's no way they can handle this. There is
so strong.
Damage though as Kobbe jumps on, finds the first one, rocket jump over the wall, FoFo! Oh no, that was the wrong one, the mind games. And he is going to survive, but Splyce hold on to their base for now.
So Kobbe in that fight displayed why J-Team playing so safe is actually risky. Because they're giving Kobbe the ability to get to max items. They're giving Karthus the ability to take half of people's health bars with this. So yes, J-Team is accumulating advantages, but it's taken so long that Splyce is beginning to reach gold parity. Let's watch this fight one more time.
I'm new to NA, but you miss every basket you don't shoot for, I think is the analogy there. Watching the replay on this one, while Leona is done from the start, the safety of Kobbe in this fight, and just the fact that you put enough AP on a Karthus, health bars go low. And you saw another fight that went 5-10% better, where Kobbe is resetting, hopping mad like Super Mario, and getting a Pence kill.
Yeah, and I believe, it doesn't show in this display, but I believe Kobbe actually had flash during this engagement, so he had the opportunity to try and go in, but there's a pretty good chance he would have just lost the game in that moment, but it was a chance to clean up.
And remember, he did leap in to try to get a kill earlier that led to a Baron and an Elder, so understandable. There was a second thought there, but just shows you that with all this time that has been bought or gift wrapped to Splyce, depending on how you look at it, well, probably more the latter, does mean that full builds are enacted.
Yeah, I want to see a few more fights where the Requiem gets used slightly earlier, because then those resets that you were talking about with that rocket jump are going to be so more prevalent on Kobbe's side. The Baron is going to spawn. Splyce now going to be walking up to it.
Well, this is the one where I think Splyce actually has to fight, because if they give this over and double Elder, it would actually be over.
Even if it buy time, look at the base.
They have to just all in this in 50-50. This is the fight.
Oh no, we're going for the teleport. They're just saying that, well, Splyce, if you're going to be here, you're going to lose the game. Cannon Barrage right on top of them as well. Xerxe just going to be taken down as an afterthought. There's the Requiem, his little gigantic shield, but in the base, there's a pirate trying to steal all their stuff. Vizicsacsi surviving for a long time, but that ain't going to win you the game. And now Hana finds the body slam flash. Humanoid is not allowed to head into his base, and even has the Zonyas to avoid the death there. Humanoid should be falling. The Super Creep's going to be doing the majority of the damage. Kobbe underneath his last remaining Nexus turret, but it has no health as Rest gets shot away, and now Koala throws dredge lines to the fountain. J-Team are going to find the victory over Splyce in the first round robin.
Are we sure they don't need to get the second Elder, though?
Yeah, I mean, I think they may have misplayed.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Anyway, it was actually an only 5-death game for J-Team, where they stayed even with Splyce in the early game, demolished them in the mid game. and then took their time cleaning up the pieces in the late game to get the win.
They stayed the course, that part is for certain. You were mentioning they needed to go for this Baron Splyce, but unfortunately when you have 3 inhibitors down, if it's 2, if it's 1, yes, with 3 down, they tried to find a neutral zone to fight in. That was actually their downfall with teleports still up on the GP. And yes, Kobbe got there to slow down, but that meant that Kobbe wasn't there for the fight that occurred around the pit.
And the thing that I love about watching J-Team in this game is that we've seen J-Team be way too slow in the early game, let their opponents dictate the pace. They called out